Electricity Minister Dr Kgosientsho Ramokgopa says the appointment of Dan Marokane as Eskom CEO has brought stability to the troubled parastatal. Ramokgopa says while things have improved, some challenges remain, and he's also discussed the VGBE-led consortium report, which assessed 14 coal stations between March and May last year, and we did touch on this report on the show. In fact, the Minister joining us live now to talk about some of these issues. Minister, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Let's just start with, you talk about greater levels of stability at Eskom since the appointment of the permanent CEO. What is that one area for you where you've noticed such?
Well, thank you very much, Bongi, and good afternoon to the viewers back at home. Well, I guess that if you like, the stability starts with the board itself. I think the board led by Dr. Mteto has done tremendously well. They've made inspired appointments in the form of the acting general manager of generation, Mr. Ngumalo, who subsequently also stabilized, if you like, the management at the various power stations and identify some key personnel with a wealth of experience drawn out of their work in Eskom and place them at some of the most problematic power stations. And that's why you're beginning to see the kind of returns that we are seeing. But also we can't understate the excellent work done by the then acting CEO, Mr. Khalib Kasim. It's exceptional work that he's done, raised his hand. His substantive position is that of the CEO, but during the most difficult and troubled times at Eskom, he accepted the responsibility to manage the transition. And that's why you are seeing that Mr. Marokane has got a soft landing from a management stability point of view, the leadership point of view, spearheaded by the board. Of course, he'll bring his own color, and if you like, at how he manages the team. But I think the work that has been done over this period of time is just a confirmation of the collective efforts from both government, the board, and the management, and other stakeholders in the form of organized workers and also business. They've contributed immensely to seeing the kind of progress that we are seeing. Of course, we are not out of the woods yet, but the point I'm making is that we are turning the corner, and I'm very confident that we are going to see a significant abatement of the intensity of load shedding. We are going to get to periods of stability whilst we are still working on new generation capacity to ensure energy sovereignty in the country.
So you talk about, the leadership at Eskom currently, but, there's also been that VGBE-led consortium report, which we've also discussed here on the show. And when one reads it, part of it, it says that the poor performance at these power stations where they had to look at, it's based on what it calls a dysfunctional and overly complex management system within Eskom's generation. And they also talk about how there is 3 ministers that are responsible for this particular entity, and that in itself adds a lot of complication. How do you respond to that specific finding?
Well, a significant point to be made is that the report was commissioned in February of 2023, and at the time when the report was commissioned and when they executed their work, I think a lot of those facts were obtaining, but they have since been clarified. I'm sure you know that there's been a delineation of the roles of the Minister of DMRE and the Minister of Electricity. And in the latter part of the year, the President further defined the roles of the Minister of Electricity and the Minister of Public Enterprise. So at the time that they were doing the report, I think a lot of this development were not confirmed yet. So as I speak to you, those issues have been addressed.
But do we need 3 ministers?
Well, I think the determination for the president to make,
But in your view, do we need 3 ministers? In your view?
Remember that the introduction of the Minister of Electricity is an intervention to ensure that there's a focused approach on the resolution of load shedding. The other ministers have got additional responsibilities outside just generation capacity, the management of the transmission and also distribution. So in the president's considered opinion was that you needed someone who would live, breathe and sleep the resolution of the energy crisis in the country as codified in the Energy Action Plan. And that's the work that we've been doing. And the president has been very explicit to say that is an intervention. And I'm sure that in the 7th administration, there will be a reconsideration of the configuration of government in general, and of course, including the Ministry of Electricity. But this, remember, Bongi, is an intervention to resolve the crisis.
And how much of this particular report is going to be integrated into some of the efforts going forward? Because some of it, when one goes through it, is in part what has already been afoot in terms of the processes that are in place. But also, you look about the fact that they're calling for full responsibility and, when it comes to budgets and accountability, to be taken back to power station managers and all of that. So how much of this are you looking to incorporate in the work going forward?
Maybe just to make a point that there's a number of reports that precedes this one. The one commissioned by Minister Gordon, I think somewhere in 2019, the Ministerial Technical Task Team, just to review, if you like, the operational performance of Eskom. There was one that was done by the World Bank, I think in 2022. There was a report commissioned by the Eskom board itself, the WSP, just to get an independent analysis on, if you like, the technical operations and performance of the Eskom fleet. So all of these things will be consolidated, and so that we've got a single window of assessment in relation to the degree to which we are implementing these recommendations. And the team led by the CEO, Mr. Dan Marokane, is hard at work to ensure that we've got a consolidated list of recommendations and we're able to account, if you like, against those recommendations. I mean, they are very useful. I mean, we welcome first the intervention by National Treasury, and that intervention was necessary. Remember, it was before the introduction of the ministry. So National Treasury wanted an appraisal, an independent appraisal of the technical performance, so that they are able to justify and measure the impact of the fiscal support that they've given to Eskom. So this is the context against which we received this report. But like you make the point, the number of recommendations that sits in that report are already receiving attention. And I'm confident that as a result of this contribution by these reports and 3 other reports that were previously commissioned, you'll find that the aggregation will be such that they have a meaningful impact on a reduction of both the intensity and regularity of load shedding, and ultimately leading to the liquidation of load shedding.
All right, Minister, thank you so much for your time.